she turned to me and then she said, "Hey, you want to see something?"
Targeted while out for a ride.
And then she just started hitting me.
An adult taking aim at a 12-year-old boy over the Trump sign attached to his bike.
I'm feeling disappointed. I'm disappointed of the people right now.
Struggling airlines and more layoffs in Denver.
We had high hopes for this facility.
Tonight, the ripple effect it's having on small mom and pop businesses surrounding DIA.
And it's their mission to provide care. But in this health crisis, a church is now looking at new alternatives to help the homeless, and the costs are adding up.
I cannot turn my back and walk away.
Punched and scratched, a 12-year-old boy tells Denver7 he was attacked by a woman in Boulder for showing his support for President Trump while out riding his bike.
Reporter Addie Guajardo spoke with a boy who says he's disappointed in people right now.
Cars and bikes zipped down Folsom Street in Boulder. And on Monday, a 12-year-old boy went for a spin.
I was riding my bike with my Trump sign.
A yard sign reading Trump, Pence, keep America great.
I didn't want any conflict, anything. I just wanted to show what I believe in.
The boy asked that we not use his name or show his face. He tells Denver7 people looked and laughed.
Sometimes I would put it between my arms just to have it there.
But a woman driving a gray-blue moped took it a step further. He says she made a U-turn and came after him.
And then she kept looking at me. Then she turned to me and then she said, "Hey, you want to see something?" And then she just started hitting me.
He used the sign to defend himself and tried to get away.
She hit me in the head, the back of the head. She hit me in my arms.
This isn't the first time he's been attacked for his political views.
I was just shocked about what happened.
But says it's the first time by an adult.
I'm feeling disappointed. I'm disappointed of the people right now. I mean, they're willing to attack anybody just because of their political views.
Boulder police say the assault happened off Folsom Street and Glenwood Drive just before 2 p.m. The suspect is described as a white woman in her late 20s to mid-30s with blondish brown hair just past her shoulders. She was last seen wearing a tan jacket with a blue shirt and blue jeans. The boy's father wants to pursue criminal charges.
I want to keep doing it, but it's right now, since she did that, it's really dangerous for me.
A danger, despite his freedom of speech rights.
I'll respect her opinion, but she has to respect mine.
Addie Guajardo, Denver7.
A Boulder social worker has been found not guilty after she was accused of failing to report a sexual assault involving Fairview High School star quarterback in 2018. Investigators say Marilyn Laurie met with a girl who claimed to have been repeatedly groped by 18-year-old Aiden Atkinson. Prosecutors argued that by law she is required to report the assault to police, and she didn't do that. Laurie testified in her defense, saying the student never mentioned the sexual assault during that conversation.
More than 24 hours since this massive event at Bandimere Speedway took place, we're still waiting to hear from the Jefferson County Health Department. They're staying quiet. Thousands of people violated the state's ban on large gatherings and ignored the mask mandate at the Stop the COVID Chaos rally Tuesday evening. And with more events planned this weekend, the state epidemiologist warns large events can raise the risk of transmission of the virus.
We know that transmission risk can be decreased with social distancing practices and mask wearing. But even with those strategies, we know that large events can result.
Now, both the health department and Bandimere were in court earlier this summer over a fight related to COVID-19 restrictions. We have reached out to Bandimere's attorney, but we have not heard back.
Since 6 o'clock this morning, we have been going 360, looking at all sides to the Thompson School District's decision to change the mascots for Loveland High School and Bill Reed Middle School.
Loveland High is home to the Indians. Bill Reed Middle School is home to the Warriors. And tonight, as we continue the 360 conversation, we're hearing more reaction as the school district unanimously votes to do away with both the names.
Well, tonight we heard from members of the public. Some argued that as a student, you don't think twice about it. But as an adult, you realize that maybe it's time for change. The school board president says the names are damaging to our minority communities. Some alumni say the name is part of school history.
Back then, it was a sense of pride in a small town community to play for Loveland High School, home of the Indians.
The pride isn't in the mascot. The pride isn't in being an Indian. The pride is in being a Loveland High graduate.
In fact, right up until airtime, we kept hearing from so many of you. Daniel emailed us saying, I honestly don't understand the council's objection. I've always seen that for what it was intended to be, a tribute to honor their toughness, tenacity, deep spirituality, and a people of immense integrity. And Karen says, now is the time to change it. She says, the Native people in the U.S. have been treated with disrespect. and ignored by our governments for years. Well, the community will be asked to get involved in an effort to pick new mascots, and in the meantime, it's not too late. It's never too late to email us your thoughts, 360@thedenverchannel.com, or weigh in on the story on the Denver7 Facebook page.
Another blow to the airline industry because of this health crisis. Today, United Airlines announced 16,000 employees will be furloughed. That's nearly 1,000 people here in Denver.
Denver7's Ivan Rodriguez reports on the future of the airline industry, and also the unintended consequences it's having on neighboring businesses at DIA.
The reality of the airline industry is dire.
We had thought 3 months ago that we'd be back to about 80% of what it was a year ago by the end of this year. It's not going to be that now.
For United Airlines, it means more than 16,000 employees will be furloughed at the end of the month, more than 900 of them in Denver.
It's going to be very hard to get these employees back again, or very expensive. I mean, even a cargo man, a person who handles luggage on the ramp, has to get retrained. There are certain requirements.
But airlines have few options. The first $25 billion in stimulus airlines received to help cover payroll is expiring. If Congress doesn't approve a second round of funds, there's nothing to stop the looming layoffs.
It's going to be cheaper to pay them, even with government funding, than it would be to lay them off and try to hire them back again.
These layoffs also have impacts on other businesses. This parking lot near DIA, for example, has about 600 pilots and flight attendants who park their cars here. About 200 of them froze their accounts over job insecurity.
Looking at the trend of things, I wonder when it's going to pick up again.
Jonathan Shalacy with Fine Airport Parking says going into Labor Day weekend, the lot would have been bustling.
You would see lines of cars coming in. You would see every space pretty much packed out.
Today, out of their 3,000 spots, only a fraction is being used.
We had high hopes for this facility. We were doing really well after year two. At this point, basically, we're looking at 50% of what we were making moving forward through this year and maybe even to 2021.
Even if a second stimulus package gets approved, it doesn't mean people will start packing their bags and heading to DIA. But it could allow thousands of people to keep their job while they wait for travelers to walk through the gates. Ivan Rodriguez, Denver7.
Tonight, there are 247 hospital beds in use. That's an increase of 11 beds from Tuesday's numbers. Monday's 3-day positivity rate was around 2.9%, a little higher than Sunday's average, but still lower than the state's target of staying below 5%. And state leaders are warning Coloradans as we inch closer to the Labor Day holiday to just be careful. Yes, daily cases are leveling off and we're well below the 5% benchmark for positivity rates, but the state warns we could see a similar bump like we saw around the 4th of July holiday if people aren't careful. State health leaders describe that bump as our second wave of COVID-19, although more testing was done in July. Still, officials say if social distancing decreases and large gatherings occur, it won't be pretty.
Heritage High School in Littleton is the latest school to move from its hybrid learning to remote learning for 2 weeks after a student tested positive Tuesday, a staff member positive today. And dozens of students and staffers were in contact with those who tested positive. The students will start remote learning now on Friday, and that will last through September 11th.
It has been a costly fight to get the state's wildfires under control. We're talking $77 million to fight the flames. The two biggest fires, the Pine Gulch and the Grizzly Creek, have cost nearly $54 million combined. That cost includes aircraft use, equipment, and paying emergency personnel working tirelessly to contain the fires. It does not include cost of restoration work.
Boulder is taking more steps to control the city's prairie dog population. Starting next year, the city plans to relocate up to 1,200 prairie dogs and kill between 3,000 and 6,000 using carbon monoxide. That plan was approved this morning.
Every year, churches across the metro work together to offer shelter for the homeless.
Well, this year, organizers say it's not safe to have people in churches because of COVID-19. As Liz Gilardi shows us, the alternative is expensive.
When they come in these doors here, I mean, they don't want to be out in the cold.
On shelter nights, people line up outside Faith Community Church in Littleton. It's one of 9 churches that's part of the severe weather shelter network.
Well, with COVID, that's really not the safest setting for either our volunteers or our guests.
Executive Director Lynn Ann Heising knew she had to come up with a solution, but it just wasn't safe to operate churches as emergency shelters when this church isn't even open for worship yet.
I cannot turn my back and walk away and say, oh, well, we can't do it this year. We had to find another way.
And that way is hotel rooms. Organizers are hoping to partner with 10 to 12 hotels in Jefferson County and West Arapahoe County. When churches opened their doors as a shelter, the space was donated. Now the cost is adding up.
It's a huge shift when your budget is $150,000 and now we're looking at just $600,000 for us to be able to provide the motel space.
The program is still hoping to serve 105 people per night, maybe more because the need is only increasing.
I know these people who are living on the street. They're my friends. I know their stories. They bring friends with them when they come to shelter here.
And they will be able to find shelter because organizers simply aren't willing to give up.
And so this is the only way that we know to be able to move forward for this year.
Liz Gilardi, Denver 7.